friends, it's Valerie. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to this week's What's for Dinner. If you're new here, welcome. I would love if you would hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube family. I do What's for Dinner videos and they come out every Sunday. And I also do like grocery hauls and some random other food videos, and soon I'm going to be starting some cleaning and motivational type videos, so leave a comment down below letting me know anything specific you're interested in seeing so I can get on that. And other than that, let's just get started. This first meal is Tuscan garlic salmon, and if you don't like salmon, don't worry. I think this would still be very amazing with chicken. I'm starting off by taking my 1 pound of salmon fillets and I patted them dry, and I went ahead and diced up one medium yellow onion, and I'm also dicing up some Roma tomatoes. The recipe called for 4. I had to use like 8 of them because I have these teeny tiny Roma tomatoes. Next, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil to my large skillet on medium-low heat. And once that oil is hot, I'm going to go ahead and add in my salmon fillets. And then I'm going to go ahead and season those with some red pepper flakes, about 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, as well as 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and then just some salt, like your preference of salt. And normally I season my like whatever meat I'm doing first before putting it in the pan, because I like to sear that seasoning in like a crust on it, but I went according to the recipe. Anyways, so once I flipped it, I could see that it just didn't have that same crust that I would have wanted. So you will see later I will add some extra seasoning on this side here and flip it back over so it has like just for another minute or so, just so it can kind of develop that golden crust that I really like on my salmon. I love like a crunchy, crispy part of salmon. Same thing like with the tails of my salmon. They always come off if they're super thin when I flip it, and I don't mind because I let them crisp up and they are so tasty. I just love that crispy little piece of fish. And you're going to cook these about maybe 5 to 7 minutes, just depending on how thick your fillets are, and then remove them to a plate. And now I'm adding in a tablespoon of butter to that same skillet, as well as 4 cloves of minced garlic, or that's what the recipe called for. I probably did about 6 cloves worth. And then you're going to go ahead and add in your medium chopped onion, as well as just giving it a good stir till your onions become nice and softened and translucent. And then you're going to go ahead and add in your diced up tomatoes, as well as about 1/4 cup of fresh basil leaves chopped up, and then about 6 ounces of fresh spinach leaves. I went ahead and rinsed mine and drained them. And then you're going to need a 1/2 cup of broth. I'm using vegetable broth here. You can also use chicken. And I'm attempting to kind of press down that spinach so that it can begin to wilt down. And now I've taken a large pot of boiling water that has been salted, and I'm going to cook up some bow tie pasta. You can also do rice, or like a zucchini noodle would be amazing with this. We just chose to have some pasta with this. It was my boyfriend's preference. I let him pick. And now you'll see my spinach kind of getting softened. I tasted the seasonings in it and I wanted some more seasoning, so I just put more salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, red pepper flakes. Then into the liquid I added about a 1/2 cube of a bouillon, like a chicken bouillon cube, and just let that dissolve in that liquid, and then I stirred it all together. That added a really good stronger flavor. Because I figured I was serving it over pasta. I didn't want my pasta to be too bland, to not have a nice sauce to coat it, you know what I mean? So I put a little bit of butter in that cooked pasta, and a little bit of this Italian cheese, not too much. I don't want a full-on cheesy meal, but it just added a nice little taste to the pasta. And there is that, all beautiful. You're going to put those salmon fillets back in the skillet so they can warm back up with that. And yeah, I just served this over the pasta. This was amazing. We loved this so much. My boyfriend says this needs to be on our rotation now of dinners because we really, really liked that a lot. Definitely gonna be good on chicken as well. And so I hope you enjoy that. This next meal is some garlic butter steak bites and mushrooms. I'm going to start off by cutting my steak into some bite-sized pieces. This is just a petite sirloin steak, about a little over a pound's worth. Um, if you would like a better steak, of course, go ahead and use whatever your preference is. This is just cost efficient. I would have preferred, of course, a better steak because I'm a steak snob, but I have to remember to stay in my budget, and this isn't a horrible cut, so I just went with it. And yeah, you're just going to go ahead and chop that into some bite-sized pieces, and then I'm putting that in a bowl, and I'm going to cover it with about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and then just some salt and some pepper. I didn't really measure that out. It's just kind of like a preference on what you like on that. I put some garlic powder, and then I gave these all a toss. And then I just decided to give them a light spritz of some olive oil. I'm going to be using butter later, so I'm not using too much of that. I'm just going to let those kind of like marinate while I work on these mushrooms. So for the mushrooms, I'm just using some baby bella mushrooms. You're going to want anywhere from 8 to 16 ounces of mushrooms, depending how many you just prefer and how much steak you're using, because of course your quantities can just increase whatever amount of steak you want just doing several batches in your air fryer. So yeah, I'm just cutting those in half. If you have tiny button mushrooms, you don't have to cut them. And I'm adding those to the bowl and also giving those a nice toss with those, and I'll let those continue to marinate with the steak for a little bit. Also, the steak coming to like a little bit more of a room temperature, I find does tend to help your steak not seize up so much when it goes into the heat. Um, so yeah, so setting those aside, gonna work on my broccoli. For my broccoli, I've just got 2 heads of broccoli here. You can use, of course, whatever vegetables you like. It just sounded really good. You can use, I bet, green beans, asparagus would also be amazing with this. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and chop those up into some smaller florets, and I'm placing them onto the pan, one of my air fryer pans, because I have a air fryer that's more of like a oven style, like a conventional oven style. I have the Instant Pot brand Omni Plus, and I love it. I don't know if you can still get it, if it's available. If so, I will leave a link in the description box down below if you want to take a look at that, because I love that thing. It's amazing. So yeah, just spritzing these with some oil. I used avocado oil. Just gonna put some garlic powder as well as some this garlic herb just seasoning. I just love anything with garlic flavors. So any type of seasoning you like on your vegetables though. Mrs. Dash is really good on broccoli. That's like one of my favorites. Anyways, just gonna go ahead and toss that all together. And now to a little measuring cup here that I went ahead and melted 1 stick of butter. I'm gonna go ahead and just press some garlic in there. Maybe about 5 to 6 cloves of garlic. Of course, you can use less, whatever amount you prefer, anywhere from like 3 and up. Then just go ahead and give that all a good little stir to get the garlic all infused into your butter there. And you're going to just go ahead and pour this on top of your steak bites and mushrooms. And then I'm just using some tongs to pretty much just toss it all together. The butter is going to start to solidify more because it's touching cooler items. So it's going to be nice and like kind of like thick, which is good because when you pour it in the air fryer basket, it won't just seep right through right away, which is obviously a great thing. And now you'll see me putting it all into my air fryer basket. And then I'm like, let me just take some out and do 2 batches. I just wanted to make sure that I had a nice even cook. And I put those in the air fryer, the steak bites on one level and my broccoli on another. I did 400 degrees, and you don't see the time on there because I accidentally hit cancel, but I did it for about 5 minutes for medium rare. So I'd say 3 minutes if you want rare, anywhere from 7 to 8 minutes if you want them cooked all the way through. And here is me just with that broccoli there for you. This was really tasty. I just would have preferred a better cut of steak for myself. My boyfriend didn't necessarily mind. He ate so much of that steak because he's not as picky as I am. But I did love how juicy the steak was and how meaty those mushrooms were. It was really tasty. This last meal is slow cooker poor man's stew. I'm going to start off by taking a pound of ground beef and putting it in my large skillet over medium to medium high heat and browning that. Mine was still a little bit frozen. I defrosting it in the microwave, but it still had a little bit of frozen spots for it, but it's no big deal. It'll still cook up because it's not solid, completely frozen solid. So yeah, just go ahead and use my meat chopper here to go ahead and break that up into some more bite-sized pieces. I'm kind of going to let that cook down a bit before I break it up some more, and I sprinkled it with some garlic powder even though the recipe didn't call for that. And while that's cooking, I'm going to get to my potatoes. You're going to need about 1.5 pounds of potatoes. I'm just using russet potatoes because it's what I have, and I'm cutting them in half lengthwise and into some just smaller diced like chunks. You don't want them too tiny, but you don't want them too large to where they don't cook at the same rate as all your other things in the crock pot, like your carrots. So also going to take 3 large carrots here and dice those up into some bite-sized pieces. So the end of the carrot where it's really thin, I just kind of like cut up, and then as it gets to the thicker side, I cut it in half and then slice it up because I don't want them to take forever to cook as well, even though these are going to be in the slow cooker, and I'm cooking them on low for like 7 hours. In fact, I let it go even longer because I wasn't home, and my crock pot just went to the heat function, like the keep warm function. So it's no big deal if you need a little extra time on it. Just make sure they're all kind of uniform in size. And now I'm going to go ahead and dice up some onion. The recipe called for 1 onion dice. I didn't really say a size. I'm just using about a medium to large size onion. I had a very large onion, so I kind of just had half of that. Now I'm taking this 6-ounce can of tomato paste, and I like the one with the basil, garlic, like oregano, whatever flavoring it has in it. It's really good, and I just think it adds a nice extra touch to dishes to boost the flavor. And I'm adding that to a bowl with a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, and then I'm going to press some garlic in it. It says 1 to 2 cloves. I probably did a little extra because I always add a little extra of garlic. And then I'm just going to use my little spatula to go ahead and mix that all together just to get those seasonings nice and mixed with your tomato paste. And then I'm going to make some broth. The recipe said you to use water. I like broth. I think there was a note somewhere saying you could switch it up with broth. So I'm using this better than bouillon vegetable base to make 2 cups of broth. And now to my crock pot, I'm just going to go ahead and add in my diced up vegetables, so carrots, onions, and potatoes. And then I'm going to add in my cooked up ground beef, and then you're going to top that with your tomato paste mixture. And this is all the recipe calls for, but I actually love to add green beans and corn to this meal. It's just the way I've always loved it. So I add a can of corn. I actually saw that I was out of green beans, so that was a bummer. So I do have them later on though. But yeah, for now I'm mixing that together, and I poured in that broth. And at this point I'm like, okay, this is not enough broth at all. Like, you can just see there, how is this going to be a soup? Like, it's all the way at the bottom. It's not covering it. Maybe it's a little too much vegetables. I mean, I used the weight. My carrots might have been a little extra, but I made an additional 2 cups of broth, poured that in, and it was perfect. And you just want to cover your vegetables, of course. If you like it very soupy, add a little extra. Cook this on low for 7 hours. I'm sure you can do high for 3 to 4 hours. And because you're just cooking your vegetables until they're done. Your beef is already cooked. And I got home, and at this point I got some green beans and I put them in. I picked them up when I was out because I was like, I need green beans in this. Like, it's just one of my favorite parts of it. I love this like soupy stew. It's like thick. It's so tasty. It's always been a good comfort food to me. I served this by itself this night, but actually I had some crackers on the side, but I like this with garlic bread, and yeah, it's just really, really good. It definitely doesn't disappoint. It was raining this night and perfect. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little bell so you don't miss out on any future What's for Dinner videos. And I hope you all have an amazing week.